Good morning, conference. It's wonderful to be back in the remarkable city of Liverpool. It's my third and my final conference as your chair of the Royal College of General Practitioners. Now on Saturday, I'll properly introduce my excellent successor, Martin Marshall. But today, I want to concentrate and reflect on the state of general practice, the positives and the negatives, in the context of the wider NHS, how far we've come and where we're heading. And I'm going to throw out a few challenges to you, our fabulous members, but also to the powers that be. So, we're meeting together at the college's most family-friendly conference in a spirit of celebration and joy. And you'll realise it's half-term for many of our GP families. So today, I want to talk to you about two games. Jenga and Lego. Now, they're both familiar to us. Both use standardised blocks. But the aim of each game is fundamentally different. One seeks to joyfully create. The other creates instability. One nurtures cooperation and collaboration. The other, competition and adversity. Oh, and I do need to add, this conference is not sponsored by any particular toy manufacturers, just for the avoidance of doubt. Now, I'll come back to the games, but let's face it, we are living in tumultuous times. Interesting, certainly, but tumultuous. And my entire tenure as your chair has been dominated politically by Brexit, and we still don't know where we're going with that. Politics is ever increasingly polarising. Political parties are splitting, not just in the UK, but around the world. And our nation is divided, and in quite a nasty way. There's a distressing lack of civility, a lack of respect, and a lack of professionalism. But where the NHS is concerned, whilst people will disagree on what it should do and how it should be run and how it should be funding, one constant in this chaotic world that we're living in is that the NHS matters and it must be protected. And general practice is the foundation of our NHS. And that certainly hasn't changed in the 3 years since I've been chair. Or in fact, the last 71 years of the NHS for that matter. Indeed, I clearly remember my predecessor, Maureen Baker, describing general practice as the dam that holds back the floodwater and protects the rest of the NHS. Now, the events at Whaley Bridge earlier this year certainly brought that speech back to me vividly. If that dam had not held, the consequences don't bear thinking about. So, when I took up this role, I pledged to hold the government to account on our promises of more resources for general practice, more GPs, more members of the practice team, and 100 or so other pledges in the GP Forward View. And I also promised to actively support the devolved nation chairs to achieve similar promises for Wales, Northern Ireland, and Scotland. But I was also on a mission to bring a bit more joy to our profession. And being chair of this college has been an absolute privilege. And one thing I've particularly enjoyed doing is getting out there, meeting as many of you as possible at all stages of your careers. And I'm delighted to have visited every single faculty region during my time as your chair. That's every region of the UK, from Land's End to the Shetland Islands. And I've met thousands of remarkable GPs and practice staff in every type and scale of organisation. And thank you for hosting me. And I'm consistently overwhelmed by your energy, your passion, and your dedication to patient care. But GPs, and particularly newer ones, often ask me, what's the college for? What's it ever done for us? Now, of course, today I've got to start with our award-winning conference, bringing us all together to challenge each other and learn from each other. And then there's our massive free CPD offering. We've got more than 500 e-learning resources. Then there's podcasts, blogs, educational libraries, highly acclaimed toolkits, making sure we all have the resources we need. And what about our policy, campaigns and clinical work? This year alone, our brilliantly diverse council, composed of grassroots GPs from all around the UK, has led the way by passing position statements on subjects as diverse as the care of transgender patients, artificial intelligence, non-evidence-based screening and genetic testing, identifying the key issues and clarifying the situation so that you know where you stand and then we lobby for improvement. Then there's the hundreds of national consultations we submit every year, ensuring the voice of the GP is heard in the development of guidelines and policies. The tens of thousands of print and broadcast mentions we secure every year, defending the profession when we're under attack, making sure everyone knows about the pressures we're facing, but also reassuring our patients, cutting through the fake news, adding authority to coverage about health and medical research, getting our point of view out there and changing the narrative. Then there's our world-class examination, our ever-evolving curriculum, ensuring GP training is of the highest quality and that every GP entering the workforce is competent and safe. And of course, lobbying hard to save our international trainees and GPs from inappropriate deportation. Then there's our world-class publications, the world-leading British Journal of General Practice. There's Innovate for trainees and, of course, Light-Hearted GP Frontline. And what about our AIT group, our first 5 groups, our awards, research funding, bright ideas, quality improvement tools? And there are amazing faculty network and devolved councils, all offering you local support and guidance. We have an ethics committee, an overdiagnosis group, a rural forum, a health informatics group, and a host of other interest groups with more to come. And I'm so proud of our work to promote equality, diversity and inclusion. And this year saw our first official presence at Pride events right across the UK. And then there's our environmental and sustainability work. And we've just set up a new climate change task force. We're a member of the UK Health Alliance on Climate Change, and we promote the Green Impact for Health toolkits. And don't forget our international work, now spanning over 100 countries, globally promoting excellence in general practice and primary care, and the positive impact it has on health. And this year, I'm so proud that we signed a Memorandum of Understanding with the World Health Organization, the first of its kind of a medical royal college, committing to help train medical educators in some of the neediest parts of the world. A cost-neutral initiative allowing us to share our remarkable skills and talents as expert medical generalists and educators, and to do our part to help narrow the gap between the number of trained healthcare professionals the world needs and what it actually has. And that's a gap predicted to reach 18 million by 2030. 18 million. So you get my drift. Your college is doing an awful lot for you and for our patients. But I'd now like to take a moment to look back. It was from this stage 2 years ago that I introduced you to my lovely patient Enid and the concept of Enid-shaped care and the idea that loneliness and social isolation can have an adverse impact on health akin to a chronic long-term health condition. I spoke about the need to reinvigorate our professional satisfaction in general practice and to allow us to deliver truly holistic, person-centred care. And I said that if you give us enough time, enough resource, and enough professional freedom, we will give you great general practice. Now, the profession and the policymakers embraced that concept and truly holistic, person-centred care that the college had long been championing. It went mainstream. We brought together people from across society to discuss what needs to happen to tackle loneliness and social isolation. And we developed loneliness manifestos in all 4 nations. And then we saw an introduction of a minister for loneliness and a cross-government loneliness strategy, and part of that a pledge for general practice to have access to 1,000 link workers or social prescribers. And since July this year, we've started to see them being employed in our practices. And I'm thrilled to have been asked to lead the new National Academy for Social Prescribing in the coming months. Then last year in Glasgow, I spoke about the impending tech tsunami, the challenges and opportunities that health-related tech can provide, but the challenge as us to professionals to be evidence-based in the way we use and adopt new innovations, to be wary of the evidence vacuum surrounding exciting, sparkly new innovation, that we need tech that works for patients and also makes our lives easier. And I challenge the policymakers, make good choices that are not to the long-term detriment of the NHS. And I challenge tech providers, work with us, work with the NHS. And from that, the college developed our technology manifesto, All Systems GP. And we obtained clear promises from our Secretary of State that every practice will have access to fibre optic broadband by the end of 2020, and 50 million committed by Welsh Government to transform digital health and care in Wales. The college speaks and we get action, and I'm proud of that. So where have we got to in the wider health sphere? The GP Forward View, with its pledges of £2.4 billion extra for general practice and 5,000 more GPs, has been incorporated into NHS England's long-term plan. And this has huge additional promises for primary and community care. £4.5 billion extra a year, to be precise. And it speaks the language we relate to. The need for improvement in health inequalities, to address the social determinants of health and prioritise the needs of the most vulnerable in our society. Then we had the visionary new GP contract in England, 5 years of stability and real growth, underpinned by mature, professionally led quality improvement aspirations, finally starting to replace box-ticking quaff, rewarding collaboration over competition, and targeting our energies on those who need them most. We've seen the introduction of a state-backed indemnity scheme for general practice in England and Wales, something the College over successive chairs and alongside our colleagues in the BMA has pushed hard for. And in fact, it was announced by the then Secretary of State, Jeremy Hunt, remember him, here at our conference in Liverpool 2 years ago. We've seen steady but significant increases in the number of junior doctors choosing to train in general practice, breaking all records. And we now have more GPs in training than ever before. There are around 12,000 across the 4 nations of the UK. And in fact, more than 3,500 GPs have entered training in England alone this year. That is wonderful. Now we just need to push that total. Yes, it is worth applauding. But I'd argue that we need to get that total to over 5,000 a year. Let's keep going. We've successfully pushed forward the agenda to achieve recognition of general practice as a medical speciality. Now, merging of the full medical registers will take legislation, and let's face it, there's not much chance of that with Brexit hanging around. But we have persuaded the GMSC and the BMA to co-sign a statement with us, confirming that GPs are specialists. True, important and overdue acknowledgement of the value and skill that the expert medical generalists bring to medicine and patient care. We must always be proud of what we do as GPs. We must never be made to feel inferior. Far from it. I'm a GP. What's your superpower? Sorry, couldn't resist. It is my last conference. And we are seeing a slow but steady improvement in morale amongst our members, according to the regular tracking survey of attitudes of the profession that we run. The pieces of the jigsaw are fitting together. Or to go back to the Lego on the table, by working together and collaborating with colleagues across health, in conversation with government and decision makers, we are getting there. The future's taking shape, and it's a brighter future. And it's a future that will be shaped by our college's vision for general practice, fit for the future. A piece of work that more than 3,000 of you contributed to, and it's now yours to own and use. Don't be fooled that it seems simple. I'd say that it's deceptively simple. It clarifies that we will be working in larger groups with more diverse teams of colleagues. Others will do tasks that we might have done. We call it task substitution. But they won't replace the complex role of the GP. Task substitution is welcome. Role substitution, well, that's a fool's errand. The vision articulates the need for investment in IT and infrastructure, as well as educating the whole primary care workforce. These things that together will allow us to spend longer with our patients, to deliver the holistic, expert, generalist care they need from us. The 15-minute consultation must become the minimum standard time we allocate to face-to-face interactions, giving us more time with the patients who need us. Patient-centeredness will mean we will seek to prioritise continuity of care. Do you know, it's not an outdated anachronism. It's important. It works, and we must strive to retain continuity for our patients who will truly benefit from it. Not because it flatters our egos to see patients who know us and trust us, but because it's good for patient care. It reduces inappropriate referrals, it reduces investigations, and it improves outcomes. Historical developments pitted us against our secondary care colleagues in competition. But the new contracts, the formation of PCNs or working in clusters, and proposed legislation changes are all about collaboration. rewarding the Lego builders, not the Jenga players. We're making progress, but we're not yet that. You, our members, are telling us you are more optimistic, which is great, but you're also telling us that the workload is still unmanageable, that many of you are working unsafe hours, and that it's taking its toll on your health and well-being. Many of you are scared about the impact this could have on your patients. Yes, we have promises for more investment into general practice, and there are very welcome signs this is finally getting to the front line. But many of you are telling us that running a practice is unsustainable, that you're planning to hand back the keys, and that you plan to leave the profession sooner than you would have done. Yes, more GPs entering the profession, but still more are leaving it. Progress has simply not been made in building the GP workforce, and we have fewer full-time equivalent GPs now than we did when that 5,000 pledge was first made. And many of our patients are waiting longer for a GP appointment as a result. So this is my call to government. Do not rest on your laurels. The NHS worships the NHS. The nation worships the NHS, in fact. We've seen from the major party conferences that all parties, political parties, recognise this. And both our health secretary and the chief exec of the NHS have repeatedly talked about general practice as its bedrock. Do not take us for granted. Do not make any rash decisions about our service or introduce gimmicks or arbitrary targets that might be vote winners, but that would ultimately set back general practice for 20 years, that would make our promises to stabilise and grow our profession defunct, that would make our vision of general practice just a pipe dream. The Prime Minister, Boris Johnson, stood on the steps of Number 10 on his first day in office and pledged to tackle the 3-week waits to see a GP. We welcome that, but it must be done the right way. History has taught us that access targets in general practice do not work, and we must learn from those lessons, not repeat them. We must first be offering what our patients need, not what politicians want. If unrealistic targets are imposed on our profession, it will crumble. And if general practice crumbles, patients won't be able to see a GP at all. The best way to improve our patients' access to a GP is invest in our services, invest in our workforce, and invest in our structures. Trust us to be expert medical generalists and do what is best for our patients. We want to work with you, government, constructively and collaboratively. Now, the strides we've made over recent years gives me great hope for the future of general practice and patient care. So let's continue to work together like the Lego builders. So I'm coming to the end of my term in office, and I'll be passing the baton on to the excellent Martin Marshall and our wonderful officer team, all frontline GPs from around the UK. But today I want to finish with a few thoughts of my own about the future and pose a few challenges to decision makers and you. After a seriously dismal few years, I honestly see a very bright future for our profession. Amazing, energetic young leaders are emerging. Our next generation are as passionate and dedicated as our founders were, and they need support and encouragement from us older, or should I say us more experienced GPs. Let's nurture them. Let's give them permission to be creative and flexible. Let's not hold them back with the ways we used to do it, because the world is changing. Now, we will always be compassionate clinicians with excellent patient care at the heart of our actions, and GPs will always be trained in the art and the science of general practice. But their training, it must be based in general practice for the great majority of the time, not in hospital posts for years on end. And the wider practice team must also be better trained. Our allied healthcare professionals and non-clinical colleagues need to be better supported and empowered to reach their potential too. Now, I need to sound a note of caution about the evolving political landscape. There are very real threats to truth. There are threats to our integrity and threats to our professionalism. And one vital role for our college and my successor must be to continue to call out untruths and non-evidence-based initiatives, to promote and keep reminding our profession that our Latin motto, cum scientia caritas, that's compassion, underpinned by science, exemplifies that we are scientists first and foremost. We need good, independent evidence to guide our steps, not fake news or hyperbole. We need to remain strong in the face of criticism, especially from those with vested interests. But we also need to call out the inappropriate negativity in our own ranks. We need to challenge those jaded trolls whose cynicism seeks to drag down colleagues. Do you know, it's fine to disagree with each other, and it should be encouraged in a spirit of healthy debate, but let's have some civility about it. Let's celebrate and encourage the enthusiasts for our discipline and help guide their steps, not clip their wings. So to go back to the games. With a Jenga-style future NHS, the harder we work, the more fragile and divided our system will become, and the inevitable outcome is structural failure, as you can see. But Lego represents a future where we're all seeking to improve, to collaborate. Do you know, we may each just bring a block, or we may bring a sophisticated organisation, but we need to cooperate. In a nation torn apart, more than ever, we need our profession united. We are at the dawn of a new era. I believe that. So mine is a message of hope with just a note of caution, because what will not change in future is the doctor-patient relationship. We are so loved and so trusted by our patients, despite the turmoil in the NHS. We deserve to take pride in our amazing work and celebrate our success. General practice is the most amazing medical discipline, and you are utterly, utterly outstanding professionals. Thank you. Thank you all.